So if there's ever further consolidation to be thought through, we need to go back to the DPW site, and I need to tell you what we need to do for infrastructure improvements to make that work, so that everyone is successful in terms of the chief's priorities are met, and they get their vehicles on time for service, as well as the DPW. Can you imagine in a snowstorm trying to deal with repairing vehicles and taking plows on and off and so forth and so on, and then having police cars come in and say, hey, I need my chains on, or I just went off the road, or I need a tire on my car. How is this all going to work? It doesn't take long to be very chaotic. The fire engines themselves need drive-through bays. That's a totally different animal. We have one drive-through bay. Fire engines need a drive-through bay. Need to drive in, be repaired, and drive out. So that would need another bay, whether it was attached to the DPW garage or whether it was in the same campus. But that's just some examples of what we'd have to do if we ever accommodate further consolidation.
You don't have that now.
No, they don't.
I don't want to belabor this conversation, but can I just ask why they can't back the fire engine up?
You can.
Okay.
The answer is you can.
Yeah, we do. Okay. I thought you would.
They do now.
They do.
They do. They do.
Okay.
But you should have, said, you should have drive-through bays.
Yeah, you should probably have it for everything, and then you could have a rotating.
I mean, when you drive a public works vehicle in a large vehicle, you put a plow on. You open up the other door and he just drives out.
I agree, but I'm saying.
As opposed to.
It's not.
Now you've got.
Doesn't have to be done though for a fire engine. No, okay.
Doesn't have to. I said it should.
Okay. Should I'll live with, not has to.
All right.
Well, I think what he's implying is, if in fact it was moved over there, it still requires additional space, and why not do it right?
Well, Dave and I have had discussions on it.
And we don't always agree.
I want to come back to.
That's okay.
I want to come back to the fuel.
Yeah.
You know, we seem to be in this roll the dice each year associated with fuel, and I know you've done a great job of conserving and keeping within, but you know, everything is pointing now to even higher increases in fuel. Is 5% going to cover it? Or are we going to be? You don't know.
I don't know. I know we made the adjustment last year, which stayed in the numbers. Yeah. So it's not as if we're using a number that was the base number last year. It's the base number plus the adjustment plus the 5%.
We have contracts that.
Yes, we do.
We do. So we have a little better control. And
all our fuels, our salts, we go out with consortium bids to just get the best bulk price we can. Even our water chemicals, we do the same thing.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Just on the fuel, this is the first opportunity to address it, but all the fuel accounts have been adjusted so that there's a uniform 3% increase in all fuel accounts.
3 or 5?
3.
This says 5.
They may say 5 in the narrative, but the numbers that are on the yellow sheets,
3.
the recommendations are all for 3. And again, the reason why we did that is the market is completely unpredictable. It's possible that we revisit it in October again, once prices are known, but it doesn't make sense to put in a large amount of money and still find yourself short. So what we've done is we've budgeted a modest increase, and that's what we see in all of our budgets today.
Should we be thinking about, when we look at the reserve fund, of putting some?
It's possible. I think we'll have an opportunity to take a look at it in October again, and that will provide us with sufficient opportunity, but we may also look to put some money into the reserve account. But at this time, we didn't feel that it was, we could really predict with great accuracy whether there was going to be a 10% increase or a 3% increase. So what we did was we put in an amount and adjusted it uniformly for all the departments. And you'll see that throughout the day.
Any other questions regarding machinery maintenance? Moving right along.
Cemetery. We do cemetery sales out of the administration office as well. I have to give Lorraine a lot of credit. When she took over for Lois, that's the big question. Can you handle this element of it, because it's a very sensitive side of the business. We prepare our capital plan, prepares the lot sections. That is to clear it. We clear and grub. This is, by the way, we have three. God bless. We have three cemeteries, one active, and it's a little better than half is actually now developed, and the remaining is underway. If you take a ride up and get into the back section, you can see the development continues left to right as you go up. And in the capital plan, we usually get roughly $60,000 a year to do over a 3-year period to actually get a section ready. The first $60,000 goes into clearing and grubbing. In other words, not only the trees and the roots have to come out, but the ground has to be excavated for rock. We can't be in a position where we're going down 6 feet for burials and hitting rock after we sold the site and we have the containers delivered. So that's a lot of work, and it takes a lot of time. That usually takes 2 years to get done. And then on the 3rd year, it's the rough grading, the loam and seed, the water is extended, the service, and then the area, the roadways are paved and marked. All the graves have been marked. That's the last piece that's done. So it takes about 3 years then to get a section through. Each section can range from as little from 120 to 320 grave sites, and we usually sell about 50 to 60 a year. So there's plenty of space for, I believe we forecasted out the next 30 years. North Reading is very, very fortunate because you got a lot of town land. This is the only land right now that's dedicated for cemetery. My only advice would be, going forward in terms of available town land, you may want to look at reserving it as cemetery use only, so it doesn't get taken away from for some other use or sold, just to make sure that you have that luxury. But North Reading's extremely fortunate.
How many acres is Riverside?
I believe it was 24 undeveloped.
Yeah, what's the total?
I think it's near 50 acres, Steve.
What's the, so capacity-wise, you say right now we're good for...
It's either 50 acres and 25 is developed and remaining isn't, or it's 25 acres, half of that's developed. I can look.
I'm just, again, forecasting, again, if you say you were good for 30 years, I mean, how many lots does that equate to? I mean, what...
Well, I did all that math.
50? How many a year do you sell?
About 50 to 60. I did the math out.
That's 1,500 lots.
I remember when we did this, and but this was a number of years ago. When I came to the board, I did all the math out for how much land was available, how many lots we would get out of it, and therefore how many years. And I believe we estimated 40 years at that time.
Right. Yeah. Because
So,
we were looking at a couple of other sites, potential sites.
Right, we were.
Parsonage Lane and...
Right, exactly.
in that area, and we determined at that time probably wasn't a need to earmark that specifically.
If the board would like
But
that,
so that's 15, that's, if you've got 50 a year for 30 years, it's 1,500 lots.
what I'd rather do, because I'm just drawing on memory right now. I don't have that information in front of me. What I'd rather do is get it to Greg's, get it in your package so you can revisit it.
I think it's important that we do revisit it because, again, as we're trying to close the gap on some other land issues that we have,
Yeah,
we certainly don't want to be selling off the overreaching use as far as timelines and necessity.
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions regarding the cemetery?
All right.
I wanna come back to that. Right now, currently, is there any plan on changing rates?
We just did a couple of years ago. The answer is no.
Don't wanna advertise? How much? Free advertising. Cheapest real estate in
Town,
town.
town building.
All right, public buildings.
I'll make sure the finance committee gets a copy of that too, Joe. That information on the cemetery, on the existing, the total acreage, how much is developed, how much is undeveloped, what's our anticipated lot development, and years out.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Public buildings. This is our worst, most difficult discipline. It's the most, and I mean that it's the most neglected. We are, of all the disciplines, I can honestly say, through good capital planning and a respectful, even though we've been pretty much a level budget for years, except for labor costs driven by union negotiations and energy costs, the budgets are staying, DPW budgets are level. I don't think that's a surprise to anybody that's been working with me for a long time. And we're not an empire builder, and that's okay. Bigger is not better. But town buildings, as we all know, is really they're inadequate shape. We're getting a roof on this building, and we didn't get it through good planning. We got it through by default, because the damn roofs were falling in. So, before I'm asked the question, what's the best plan to address where we are? We have the best model through the town hall audit by KBA Architects that was done a few years ago. We spent a couple of meetings, the DPW, with the board, and went over it, and everyone thought it was just really an outstanding piece of work. This was fairly, I think they did it for 10 grand. They didn't make any money on it. But what they did, of course, is they came in and they took a look at the usage of the spaces, by whom, and then your electrical, mechanical, HVAC, environmental, air, negative air flows, and so forth, and came up with recommendations on if we were going to stay here versus a new building. And and that's where we got the roof from, quite frankly. I think it was Steve O'Leary said, well, even if we were going to relocate, and Steve, just tell me if I'm quoting you.
I'll wait to see how profound I sounded. Go ahead.
No, you just said, even if we were going to build a new building, how far away is it when we look at all the other priorities? 8 years away, 9 years away? We still got to do something with this building. You said that last year when we were sitting here.
We absolutely have to do something.
Yeah.
Building.
So we get the roof, but it's a reactionary kind of, but at least we had a guide to what we should be doing, even if it was a reactionary mode. So with our rest of the buildings that we have, what Public Works offered was to come in and have an architectural audit, again, on all the other buildings to set us up the same way, at least to have some kind of model to guide us, so that we're not, if we're spending money and we have to invest capital money, it's toward an end. It's building on some blocks that have some credibility of restoring the building to some creditable use, rather than Scotch tape and bubble gum, which is the state we're in now. Now, I want to give you some examples of now, and we have one person